What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the shop. You're not going to believe this. Like, I don't know, 2 or 3 days ago, I saw this news article and I was like, I don't know about this, man. I'm not sure that this is a real thing. And I'll just get right into it. The headline was, "Those who speak aloud about Biden's corruption in Ukraine are in danger of physical elimination." In other words, being murdered, being killed. These sensational statements in a new interview with Ukrainian politician Andriy Derkak, or Derkak, however you say it. So that kind of blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, what is Biden, shooting for, Hillary's title of most deadly politician ever? And that seems to be what's going on here. And, I saved it in my favorites. Whenever I see a big article like this, I save it. And then if something else comes along that reminds me of it, or if I don't see enough coverage of this particular accusation or this statement on the MSM, which there has been none, so that's why I'm covering this today, is so you guys will hear this. But let's go over that headline again. And this is a quote from this guy, Derkak, again, Ukrainian politician. "Those who speak aloud about Biden's corruption in Ukraine are in danger of physical elimination." So keep that in your mind. If you speak aloud about Biden or Zelensky or their plan, anything that's going on, if you speak positively about, Russia in any way and are perceived that way, then they just lock your ass up. You're not allowed to say anything over there. Biden early on, he hadn't said it in a while, but he was talking all about how we got to protect democracy in Ukraine. Well, like I was telling my wife a little while ago, about a year ago now, Zelensky started locking up all of his political opponents, almost as if they're following Biden's playbook of what's going on right here in the United States of America, with them trying to indict Trump on, 97 different counts of bullshit that they've all made up. It's all kangaroo court lawfare being used against the American people for having a different set of beliefs as the people that are currently in power. So that's a dangerous thing. And that's going on over in Ukraine. You guys that have followed me for a while, I know the truth about Ukraine, or at least what's available out there about the truth about Ukraine. Russia didn't start the war with Ukraine a couple of years ago. No. It was started by the United States, George Soros, Victoria Nuland. Joe Biden was vice president at the time. I believe he was following Barack Obama's directives to get us all entangled with these, oligarchs over in Ukraine so that we would have influence and control. And we could eventually install a person as president that would be favorable to United States and NATO. That's exactly what happened. And that's exactly why Russia felt compelled to invade Ukraine and take back some of that territory. I mean, you can't blame them. We would not put up with that crap if somebody was doing that in Canada or in Mexico or someplace like that. We wouldn't allow it. So I wanted to read a couple of the excerpts here from this guy's statement. It was a big deal. He hadn't been on media in like 2 years, and I don't know why suddenly he's back in the news, but he did this interview, and it's very damning against Zelensky and the Biden regime. "Democracy in the United States is not the power of the people, but the power of the Democratic Party, which allows Joe Biden to step by step withdraw his associates in Ukraine from prosecution for corruption. Along with this, anyone who speaks out loud about international corruption and influence peddling by the Biden family is in danger of physical elimination." That's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big deal. In other words, if you talk trash about Joe Biden, his family, his son Hunter, Jill, anything like that, or you criticize what they're doing over in Ukraine right now, you're in danger of physical elimination. This topic was raised by a well-known Ukrainian politician, Andriy Derkak, in his first interview with American journalists after a 2-year pause. So Andriy Derkak became known to the world media after a number of high-profile corruption revelations concerning the Ukrainian trace in the activities of Joe Biden during his tenure as vice president of the United States from 2014 to 2017. So he was all in the mix. Remember who was in power back in 2014 when they had the color revolution that George Soros was responsible for funding. I mean, he does this all over the world. He goes out and spends all this money on one side, the opposition side, and then he hedges his bets so that he can rake in all the money as the system is collapsing, the old system. And of course, he's there to influence the new system with his, his New World Order globalist agenda. So Durkak provided sensational data that the office of the President Zelensky is behind the leak and the promotion of audio recordings with a conversation between Biden and Poroshenko. Durkak also spoke about how Biden's partners in the Ukraine finance terrorist acts on the territory of other countries, thus avoiding responsibility for their corrupt actions before the war. From the interview with Durkak, you can also learn about the secret mission with Secretary of State Blinken when he flew into Kiev on the eve of the war, as well as about the price that the Ukrainian prosecutor, I'm not going to even try to say this guy's name, his last name is Kulik, journalist and a politician, Dubinsky, and former prosecutor Viktor Shokin, they can pay for those statements about Biden's corruption. So what this guy is saying is that if you don't believe me, ask all these dead people that Biden and Zelensky have already had assassinated. If they don't like you over there and they don't like what you're saying and you're not saying exactly what Victoria Nuland and all the other people in power are telling you to say and think, then you just get offed. So again, that struck me as very interesting when I saw that. I was like, okay, this is a really interesting spin or an interesting statement that this guy made. Because again, this is just one politician in Ukraine. I don't know this guy. Maybe he's dirty. Maybe his word, means nothing. Maybe he lies all the time. So we don't really know for sure. But we all suspect that there's dirty dealings all the way up to the point of murder in Ukraine going on right now. And here's this article 3 or 4 days ago that caught my attention, made me save it, made me bookmark it and save it. And when I came back to it today, my mind was blown because I couldn't believe this. It's an obvious, easy connection to make, but have you heard about the YouTuber, Coach Red Pill, who was killed in a Ukrainian prison? Well, let me tell you about that. U.S. Embassy confirms death of Gonzalo Lira in Ukrainian dungeon. Was Victoria Nuland behind it? I think so. The U.S. Embassy in Kiev has confirmed the death of U.S. citizen and YouTuber Gonzalo Lira, a.k.a. Coach Red Pill, in the Ukrainian custody to the Gateway Pundit. U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, Bridget A. Brink, remember that name. She's good buds with Victoria Nuland. Brink owes her career in Ukraine to Deputy Secretary of State Victoria Nuland, who Lira blamed for his arrest in May 2023, saying, "Nuland hates my guts." So this guy, who was somewhat of a celebrity, I guess, on YouTube, he had a channel and he was doing reporting, decided to move over there to Ukraine. I don't know if he moved over beforehand or after or whatever, but he was basically saying things that were viewed by the Zelensky regime as anti-Ukraine and pro-Russia. So they locked his ass up. And Lira, he blamed his arrest on Nuland and saying that she hates my guts. And I saw a couple of the screenshots or the thumbnails that he used for his videos, and they were not portraying Victoria Nuland in a positive light. In fact, it was quite the opposite. They were trashing Vicky Nuland and calling her out for the globalist warmonger that she is. Just look her up. If you don't know who Victoria Nuland is, please do yourself and myself a favor and look her up and figure out that she's been behind damn near every war we've been in for the past at least 20 years, maybe 30 years. I mean, a long time. This lady has had her finger in the pot. Stirring the hornet's nest is what she's more likely, could be a better descriptor of what she's been doing. So Gonzalo Lira came from prominence as the YouTuber Coach Red Pill during his first heyday of a conservative MAGA YouTube 2016. He moved to Ukraine in 2021, living near Kharkiv, where he had a wife and 2 children. Gonzalo Lira was in Kiev at the start of the Russian invasion of Ukraine and began reporting critically of the U.S.-backed war and criticizing the Western press corps at the Premier Palace Hotel, whom he called system pigs. And he accused of biased reporting. So isn't that interesting? This guy was calling out the mainstream media over there and the way they were reporting or not reporting by, withholding evidence, withholding the data on the ground. He called them system pigs. So he was calling out all of the media that was over there, and I'm sure he was raising a lot of eyebrows among pro-Zelensky, pro-Biden people. So this guy, Lira, who also pointed out Ukraine's record of eliminating their political opponents, including Ukrainian politician Volodymyr Struk, who was kidnapped and killed in March 2022, Ukrainian banker and intelligence officer Denis Kiriv, who was killed by the Security Service of Ukraine, SBU, in March of 2022, Communist Party activist Mikhail and Alexander Konovich, who were arrested and threatened with death in June 2022. Rada Representative Nestor Shufrik, who was arrested in September of 2022, journalist Tan Shahur, who was arrested in March 2022 and deported to Russia in May 2023, and Dmitry Dangov, a figure skater, Elena Berahinza. I mean, I can't say these names. There's a whole shitload of people that I can't say their names that were arrested as a result of Zelensky just doesn't like you. He doesn't like you criticizing what's going on. And if you criticize Biden or Zelensky, you might end up dead or in jail. So, writing in the gravestone, Alexander Rubinstein said that Gonzalo Lira died shortly before noon on January 11th, 2024, at a hospital in Kharkiv, where he had been imprisoned for 8 months, I think. Yep. 8 months since he was accused of justifying Russian war efforts in Ukraine. So he was talking all about how Vicki Nuland and Biden and Obama and George Soros started the whole deal back in 2014, and they didn't like that. See, they didn't want that story to be out there. So they locked this guy's ass up for 8 months. A note written by Lira and provided by his father to the Gray Zone indicates his death came after a nearly 3-month battle with pneumonia, a condition that was apparently ignored by his Ukrainian jailers until just weeks before his death, Rubinstein wrote. Lira's death was revealed by his father, Gonzalo Lira Sr., who had spent weeks pleading with the American embassy to intervene in his son's medical emergency. He even sent a message to Vicki Nuland's buddy. What's her name again? Brink. We got to remember her name, Brink. She's the U.S. Ukrainian ambassador. So this guy, Lira Sr., the dad, sent a letter to Brink and an email and said, hey, my son is being denied medical treatment. He's been in prison, locked up for 8 months, and he can't even get medical treatment. He's got pneumonia, and apparently he had edema, which basically means, from what my wife was telling me, it means like a swelling of the lungs or the organs or whatever. So this guy was basically slowly dying, and they refused him medical treatment. Now, there's all different kinds of murder. I mean, maybe they intentionally withheld the medical treatment so that their enemy that was out there, shouting from the rooftop that Vicki Nuland and Biden and Obama are corrupt and tied to George Soros, maybe they wanted this guy to die, so they told the medical staff to let him in, leave him alone, let him choke to death on his own lung fluids. Emails cited by the Gray Zone show that after learning of his son's illness, Senior Lira urged the embassy to intervene on January 3rd in a message to U.S. officials. He noted that Ukrainian authorities appeared to make an effort to conceal information about Lira Jr.'s health from his family and legal representatives. So not only did they deny this guy, Lira, medical treatment that you would expect, even in the most inhumane prison you can think of, they're not going to let you lay in there in your room and die of pneumonia. They always have, medical doctors on staff that could, probably give this guy a couple of courses of antibiotics and it would have been over. But no, instead, they let him suffocate to death on his own lung fluid in his room. Meanwhile, the guy's got a wife and kids and a father and other people in his family that love him. And all he was trying to do, at least in my opinion, from what I know about this guy, all he was trying to do was tell the truth, his version of the truth, what he saw, how he saw it. And no, that's not allowed. So, guys, let me know down in the comments. Do you think this is tied to Victoria Nuland, which is directly tied to Biden? because he's the one that picked her, remember, to come in as his European czar or whatever her fucking title is. She's a warmonger bitch from hell. She needs to be removed from office or removed from any position of power. And to be honest, they need to have like a type of Nuremberg trials against people like Victoria Nuland and now Brink if she's associated with this as well. So guys, I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy. You can't make this up. 2-3 days ago, I see this article about Biden's corruption in Ukraine and people talking about it and coming up missing and dead. And then all of a sudden, here's an American journalist. Yeah, he was a YouTuber, but he was trying to tell the truth. And I think that's a pretty big deal. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Did Biden and Vicky Nuland have this guy killed by, denying him medical treatment? I mean, would you put it past him? Would you put it past him? That's the question. I guess none of us will really ever know if Epstein actually killed himself or not. I tend to think no, he didn't. He was offed or maybe disappeared and moved into some secret location and they substituted a body or whatever, right? Faked his death or whatever. That's possible. But you can't believe any of this. I have no concrete proof that Biden went in there. I don't think Biden went over there and pulled the trigger on this guy. For one, it didn't go down that way. I don't think Biden had to make a phone call to Ukrainian prison or Zelensky and say, hey, let this guy starve to death or let this guy die in his own lung fluid. No, it wasn't necessary. All these people that are in the cabal already know the plan. That was something that Rush Limbaugh said years and years ago. I'll never forget it. Some caller called in, was like, how do these people that are like lower level government officials, how do they know exactly what to do? And it always lines up with exactly what Barack Obama wanted at the time. And Rush was like, no, these people are all in the club, see? They already know the marching orders without Obama directly calling them and telling them what to do. These guys have read the Communist Manifesto. They know what they're trying to do to this country, to destroy it. They have read Rules for Radicals. They know what to do. They you don't have to tell them. They just wake up in that state of mind every morning. So, yeah, there probably isn't a smoking gun that connects to this guy, Lyra, but I find it very, let's put it this way, I find it a very interesting coincidence, to say the least, that 2 or 3 days ago I see that article about if you talk shit about Biden or his people, you're going to get rubbed out, and then this guy comes up dead. Can't make this stuff up, guys. These people are every bit as evil as you think they are. And in fact, most of us lack the imagination to really truly know how evil these bastards that are in power right now are. So when you think it can't get any worse, just look around at the news that's unfolding right around you right now, and you'll see we're damn near to the level of hell on earth with all this stuff that's going on, the wide open borders and the destruction of the U.S. dollar, the destruction of, the being a U.S. citizen, having a country. The destruction of everything is what this guy Biden seems to be all about. So do you put it past a guy like that to, what's this guy? Lyra, some YouTube journalist? He can snap his finger and a guy like that dies almost instantly. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And until then, we'll see you next time.